Hello, I hope you're very well today. So this week's education video is going to be on eczema and skin flares, why they happen, what's some simple solutions, what's the body trying to communicate to us. Because remember, skin is a lovely roadmap of our inner health. So if you're seeing these kind of flares come up in the skin, there's a problem inside one of the systems of the body or multiple systems of the body that have been flaring for quite a while. And it's a little bit like a text emoji that your skin's sending to, or your organs or systems are sending up to the skin to say, hey, there's something in here that you need to sort out because I'm not tolerating it anymore. And it is actually a good thing because your body is communicating. It doesn't use words, it uses symptoms. And this is where we're trying to teach you to learn the systems that the body's communicating, so then you can cleverly start to fix those imbalances in the lifestyle or the nutrition deficiencies, so then you can get healthy, clean tissue and skin. So eczema can occur often on different parts of the body, but it often attracts to the thinner skin, so people can flare quickly where it's thin, and then it can be systemic, which it can flare all over the body if you're not listening to it. And they say that our skin represents the lining of our gut's health. So Hippocrates, the father of medicine, said all disease begins in the gut, and he was not wrong. So it is telling me that there's two major things at play. The gut actual integrity, so the lining of the gut is probably permeable. It's naturally a little bit permeable, but those little holes have become more leaky, which means they've become larger, probably from inflammatory triggers in food. So herbicides, chemicals, really toxic inflammatory foods, your processed sugar, your genetically modified wheat, and a lot of dairy products will stress out the gut as well, because it's got a lot of animal hormones, which is the body can't tolerate, especially when it's in a flare. Sometimes when we've got a healthy gut and a healthy system, we can tolerate certain doses and quality of it, but not when you're in a flare. So you need to kind of clean those things out straight away. Now, you will find that you will need to use some supplementation to strengthen the integrity of the gut. And then you'll need to repopulate the microbiome in there by crowding out the bad bugs with the good ones. So that's going to be tailored to each person. Everyone has slightly different symptoms, and sometimes people have gone on to had to do a course of antibiotics and things to kind of deal with the flare, and we have to meet them where they're at and then tailor the supplements. And supplements are just really concentrated food, because our food system is so depleted of soils and our bodies are so bombarded with so much chemicals and processed things that we don't even know that we're consuming. The system is really depleted, so it just doesn't have the building blocks to fix itself. But the good news is if you give it the right building blocks, you calm down, you get enough anti-inflammatory, antioxidants and ingredients in there, and then you can use ingredients like glutamine, and it's great. It's like putty. It puts the putty back on the lining of the gut, and then we get enough ingredients that are anti-inflammatory, so we can take all these through supplementation. That'll bring down all the inflammation cascade in the body, so now the body has an ability to heal. And that's the great news. And then we can overpopulate with the good bacteria and clean up the diet and lifestyle that's triggering it. Stress is something that triggers skin inflammations like eczema. So anything you hear that has itis on the end, so dermatitis, these are inflammatory skin conditions, which are always going to be stemming from the gut. So if you think that's the gas leak in the house, but there's a fire going on in the skin. So once we discover that we need to address the root, we also need to topically address the skin. So the skin, because when you eat nutrition, it goes to the most essential organs to keep you alive. And your skin, even though it's your largest organ, it's not your most essential to keep you alive, which means that it's going to get the nourishment last and there's not a lot left to give. So we want to make sure that we know our skin's made of vitamins. It has its own microbiome, its own barrier. So we need to address that, and we need to get those ingredients back topically in the skin. However, when we're in a flare, we have to be wise about it. So depending what that flare looks like, if it's red and inflamed, we have to be very careful with what we apply. Less is often more. And then once that flare comes down, we can start using active ingredients, particularly a little bit of vitamin A, C, and E, which is what the body's made of, and start to rebuild those nutrition levels. Sometimes people, when the flare's calmed, it's dry and flaky. So you can use a little bit of a lactic acid with urea, and that's just going to gently melt off the dead skin. But it has to be tweaked and dose dependent. So you can't just go really hard straight away. You have to listen to the skin. So it's a bit like exercise. So it's designed to eat off the dead skin and just to slowly get those vitamins back in to repair it. But if the skin is too irritated, we need to focus on the internals and the things that are triggering it. We know our skin as an organ, it's very rich in nerve endings, and the mind and what's going on up here will be sending stress hormones to the skin to react. So a lot of people with acne know this too well. They've seen that they can eat a sugary food or Wheat Bix breakfast and they'll see it show up on their skin quite quickly. Dairy products, processed sugars, they're pretty big culprits because they're such inflammation triggers. However, the skin works the same with nerves. So there is a skin-gut connection and there's a brain-skin connection. So all the body communicates. So people have been very stressed and they get like rashes and hives show up on their skin. So we know that when the mind is really busy, and that can be with just, we don't realize that staring at artificial light triggers cortisol response. And we all naturally do it today, unless, you know, it's very rare. My younger sister is probably the rarest person I know that refuses to have a smartphone or an iPhone, and she still uses a flip phone, and she lives in the country. But in all honesty, I admire her in some ways because she doesn't stare at those artificial lights. She thinks we're all crazy. But in all honesty, most of us live like this. And even we don't realize, but when we're scrolling through social media, it's actually signaling stress hormones, and it's designed to be addictive, right? So we think it's relaxing, but our brain thinks, jump to attention. So it's turning on the arm of the nervous system that is reactive, fight or flight. But the great news is there's so much cool techniques with breath work, with using the right herbs for your adrenal system, and then working on the gut health, because a lot of the immune system and a lot of our good, happy hormones are made in the gut. But if the gut's all inflamed and upset, don't be surprised if the state of your mind is more reactive. So we want to kind of make sure that these systems are thriving, because the skin, once you fix them, the skin becomes stronger. So when you get a little bit of an unbalanced day, for example, a few more curveballs are thrown at you, or a little bit of the wrong food gets into your body, the skin won't present the symptoms as acutely. However, the good news is that as you reduce, I suppose you become more aware of your symptoms, the flares will still happen as you get your body stronger or those systems healthier, but you'll be wiser. So you'll be understanding cause and effect. It's not that your body's hating on you, your body's actually trying to help you. It's trying to say that those habits or those behaviors are really, they're not quite strong enough yet. This is something I've always had to constantly tweak with my own health, my adrenals and my gut. It's a constant cause and effect. So my skin shows me more in acne and pigmentation issues. But some people's weakness or text message will be more of a flare, like eczema or dermatitis, psoriasis. But it tells me that system, the skin's is undernourished. So its vitamin levels are way too low, and its microbiome isn't happy. So we need to do two-prong effects. We need to look at what you're applying topically, and then we need to think about what the trigger is for you. And then we need to address those systems. So is it the gut that's not working quite right? Or is it also your adrenal glands that aren't as nourished to find equilibrium or balance? So once we figure that out, it's actually quite an easy road to making those systems nice and strong. It's just a road of slight tweaking and personalization. So that is a little cap on eczema and skin conditions when it comes to flares and inflammation. Let me know if you have any questions. I hope it was helpful, and have a beautiful day. Bye for now.